Hello guys, and welcome to a new WARNO video today by me, Vulcan. In this one I have for you a 10 versus 10 on Stoneware, and I'm going to be using the 8th US Infantry Division. You might notice if you look at the deck screenshot that it is quite a bit different to usual. It is certainly not optimized in any way, and that is because I created it using the WarTacYes.com deck drafter. I'll make sure to leave a link to it in the description to their website in general, because it is an incredibly good tool for learning the divisions, but also one for using the deck drafter. And the deck drafter, basically how it works is it's a lot like Hearthstone Arena, if you're familiar with that. You are given 3 choices, and it's up to you to pick the best of those 3 choices to add to your deck. And then eventually you run out of activation points and choices, and you have yourself a full deck to play with. So the deck that you see on screen right now is because of that. So let's have a quick look at what we're doing at the start of the game. So with the ranges that I was given, I decided to deploy these all at the start. We have 5 Blackhawks down, we've got 2 elite rangers, and then we've got 3 sets of rangers with dragons, which are 2 veteran. Then we have 3 stingers that are going to be basically chasing those helicopters to the front line to provide anti-air cover once they drop. We also brought in a FSP so that the team can use it, and I can use it later on if I need to, because in the deck draft I did end up getting quite a lot of artillery, which is actually pretty handy for turn by turn, so that was nice. I also did decide to opt for 2 F-16s early on. Those will help cover the Blackhawks, and if not, be able to go and hunt other helicopters on the opposing side. So we've got 1 F-16 coming in further over here, 1 over here. I don't like them having close together like this because it does make them awkward in a dogfight. But I don't see anyone on the opposing team bringing in aircraft early on. So I basically opt to go for the Mi-2s on the left-hand side, and the F-16s, they managed to take out both of the Mi-2 recons early on, which is really good because it's going to blind these Mi-24s that might be going for Fox's SAS. But we are going to end up bumping into some Su-27s from Nero, so we're going to go for those. Unfortunately, one of my F-16s gets shot down, but we shoot down 2 Su-27s with the help of the F-15s. And also a MiG-23. Meanwhile, you will notice that my Rangers have gone very, very deep indeed. And we're going to be landing right into this complex on top of the enemy forces. Now, I would not recommend doing this whatsoever, but I was in luck this time around, as the ground forces are that of Rugener Gruppierung, so they're not that strong. Reservisten, SPWs, SPG-9s on UAZs, the T-813 there with the 100mm AT. Yeah. And you'll notice that the Rangers have absolutely annihilated everything that they touched very, very quickly indeed, thanks to their Special Forces trait, thanks to their Shock trait, and I've also now brought back the Blackhawks to help provide covering fire with their M240s. So we managed to clean up the infantry nice and quickly, and I have full control over Kilo very early on in this match. A really, really solid hot drop that, as I mentioned, is not necessarily a good idea normally because it doesn't go so well, but this time around was absolutely perfect considering the deck that I was working with. So Rangers there, going to be catching out more units on the road. Another Strela getting taken out. A lot of these units that are coming past us right now won't expect my troops to be here, so these would have been troops that people deployed at the start of the game. They're told to come midway up the map, and then they're getting ambushed along the way. These could also be reinforcements for this area that have come in after the start, and again getting caught out by my Rangers. So Rangers Dragon there, getting hit by the T-72, so that's going to want to fall back. But you'll notice that we've used up a lot of our AT. The M72 Law is out of ammo. The Rangers Dragons are almost out as well. And the T-72 is going to be potentially a problem, but we do have our team following up my push, which is fantastic. Quite often I'll see if, say, I dive deep like this with Rangers and stuff. A player might deploy further back, but they don't kind of follow you up. But in this case, the whole team's up there with me and able to basically secure what is an initial hot drop from my Rangers, which was very deep. Now, also on the backside here, I'm reloading the Blackhawks. So this isn't something that I do often enough, but it's a really, really fun way to get units to the front line quickly, especially on a map that's quite deep. So I'm bringing in the fire team AT4s in this case and a couple of military police patrol. I'm selling their transports and then I'm loading them up into the Black Hawks instead and getting them back to the front line, because it's going to be a much quicker way of reinforcing my troops here than just, you know, driving up the road, especially in transports such as like the M113s, which I'm forced to keep anyway because the fire team ATs come in those in this deck. So I'm going to be wheeling those to the front line, but you can see how much faster the Black Hawks are. And the Black Hawks are very quick. They do have like 245 km/h speed. They've got 10% ECM, which makes them a reasonably safe transport, air transport, compared to others. So yeah, decent helicopter. I do have my supply on the way as well. We need to make sure that we top off our squads here. You know, the Rangers did get pretty low, and we do need to make sure that we give ourselves some more ammo. On the left side, Bubble and Fox have done a good job of putting pressure towards Lima, and Nero ended up surrendering after the initial air engagement over on the left-hand side. Wasn't too happy about that one. Yeah, now I'm just going to be continuing to reinforce myself, as we do have our opponent throwing many T-55s our way. Now 1v1, these Ranger squads will get absolutely decimated, like you can see is happening with this Rangers Dragon. So I'm going to want to jump them out of the way and hope that we can get some shots in from the sides and kind of overwhelm them with the help of our teammate here. The trouble is, the gendarmes, they do not have any AT launchers, so that's not going to be too helpful for dealing with T-55s. So it's really up to these fire team AT4s to get the job done. You'll notice my Black Hawk here did take a lot of damage. That's because the T-55s with their Dushkas almost shot it down on the way out. But what I'm going to be doing is we're going to be landing them next to the field supply point to fix them up, and then we'll fly back towards the spawn so we can pick up even more infantry to bring them to the front line. Nice cluster here from the Super Etendard. Going to be hitting some T-55s on the backside, but does get shot down in the process. Meanwhile, I'm just trying to get the AT4s into position. So one thing that I've started to do a lot more in WARNO is be a little bit less concerned about artillery. And that might sound silly because artillery is very prevalent, but I've noticed that more recently I've been able to get away with having multiple units of infantry in the same building at the same time. And particularly when it comes down to like engaging tanks and stuff, it can be really helpful. Now he's going to be going very deep here with the BTR 152Ks and loses 4 of them before they even unload. He's going to be able to unload on top of the Stinger here. But the Stingers, meanwhile, did manage to shoot down a MiG-21 that is trying to bomb on this backside. There is a lot of aircraft flying around, as you can see, but we are focusing on this engagement. And all the fire teams coming together here is really nice, because we're going to have like 6 machine guns. We've got all of the AT4s that are able to take out the BTR 152Ks on the backside, and that removes a lot of fire support from these Reservisten, which without leaders and military police are going to be really low on cohesion, which makes them easy pickings for the Rangers at close range. We've also got a Bradley providing fire support on the backside here, so that's really helpful. Mahimmet's going to come over and attempt to fix that up and also get my Rangers back online, but rocket artillery now coming in onto the backside of the sector. So in classic 10v10 style, we got everything going on in one place. AA flying around, artillery coming in, close range infantry engagements, long range fire support. It's just absolutely wild, and this is just such a fun game that I played that I really wanted to show you guys, just because of how it all came together. The Rangers really just doing a fantastic job, and unfortunately we did lose one to the rocket artillery, but before that we still had them all alive, which was pretty impressive at this point, especially considering the position we put them in. And now the fire team have used up a lot of their ammo. I need to get them resupplied before they can engage all of these tanks which are now coming in. Now thankfully Sakdosir has got the EBR-90s, which are really cool vehicles. They're going to be engaging these T-55s. He's got the M1A1 Abrams here, that's Grim guys, taking on them at a distance. Unfortunately, these Rangers taking the brunt of the fire from those T-55s, so we're going to have to fall back. But the main play here for me, get the supply into range, get the AT-4s reloaded, which happens very quickly, and then I can jump these forwards and start blasting these with AT4s, because the AT4 has 675 meter range, which is easily enough to reach out and touch these T55s. It's really, really cool listening to those fire. All three of them launching and taking out the T55 really, really quickly indeed. I don't want to take free damage, so 100mm AT was firing at me. I want to move away from that. SU-25 does come in with the bombs there. Unfortunately, another Ranger does get taken out by that, but the last man surviving there will allow me to get them back on their feet. So now, Black Hawk's ready to go again. I'm going to be bringing in mechanized rifles, and they're coming in with their M35, so we're just going to switch those out. Easiest way to load these, select all of the Black Hawk, select all of the infantry in one selection like this, and then right-click the Black Hawk, and each Black Hawk will assign themselves to each infantry unit, and it makes it really, really much faster to load up doing it that way. You'll also notice I have got two M270 MLRS in, because I've been microing quite a few units here. And not that many units is what I really meant to say, and therefore I've been floating. So I decided to spend those points on artillery that could support another push elsewhere. But yeah, we're leaving the T55s in absolute wrecks after the AT4 teams like really went to work. They were incredible. Really, really fun to watch them hit their mark like that. So now the third drop coming forwards, and this time I'm going to be aiming to help the right. So we're already at a +4 across the front, and I was hoping to help push into Alpha here with another drop from the mechanized rifles with dragons. So the way that I'm going to do this one is we're going to have the M270s help with their artillery whilst we drop in with the Black Hawks. All the while I'm just going to be trying to resupply all of my infantry. You can see that I managed to move away from the rocket artillery that came in there. Apologies for the driver crash. I've connected with object-oriented Chinook so that I can expand the range of the supply, and so it's refueling my Helmet, and I'm using that then to give my fire teams more ammo. But here goes the M270 MLRS. That's going to be firing overhead as the Black Hawks come in. There it is, the rocket artillery landing, covering the drop of these helicopters. Unfortunately for me, 23mm plus the AA there gets a hit on target. Black Hawk's doing a good job of dropping. Do manage to get the rest of the infantry out, but here comes the artillery smashing the backside, trying to take out some of the Spador Cornegia, then also the T-55s on the back there. Just whittled down the forces quite a bit, allow the mechanized rifles to move in, and of course after the M270s fire we're going to be right clicking the field supply point and then shift right clicking where we want them to go afterwards, so then they'll automatically reload. Once they're reloaded they'll move back to this point. But all the while it's time to get the mechanized rifles forwards, and these do have Dragon 2s, so they are able to do a decent amount of damage to T-55s. On this side I'm just getting my infantry back into position to fend off any more attacks into that area, but things have gone relatively quiet here as we now move to a +8 in this game. T-55 AS, that's the mine clearer, does hit my two mechanized rifle dragons here, unfortunately. That's this bad boy. And so they're gonna be in a little bit of a bad spot, but I decided to go on the offensive anyway, see if we can get those Dragon 2s on target with the ones on the right here. These will be moving back to get supply, because I do have a bunch of troops on the way here. We've got some M1 Abrams on the way, we've got the M60, we've got my gunners coming in, which are going to be using the remainder of the Black Hawks to get back to the front line. But we have just moved up to a +10. So we're doing exceptionally well as a team, and the mechanized rifles here going to be helping put some fire down range. We are up against the Blue Berets though, and these guys are nothing to be messed with. It's really strong Polish infantry with resolute trait, shock trait. My mechanized rifles with no traits whatsoever are suffering at range. So I'm going to be trying to reinforce them with the gunners as soon as I can, but those two units are going to get taken out in the process. You'll also notice that I did get a kill onto an MO14, I believe. My Stingers here were doing a pretty good job of shooting down the occasional aircraft and helicopter. But yeah, the M1 Abrams now arriving, so utilizing these. Now it's funny with the 8th US is you do get access to M1A1 Abrams, but because of the way that the deck draft went, I didn't actually have many of them to work with, if any. So the M1 Abrams was the best card of tanks that I got, and so I'm going to be using those to engage these T-55s and T-62s, which should be a decent enough matchup anyway, especially with the 2,275 meter range still and 65% accuracy. So those are going to be able to certainly punch into these units, and I've also got an M60 leader, which is going to provide them with the extra veterancy, pushing that accuracy to 70%. So the gunners now arriving, they're going to be unloading. Again, cycling out helicopters like this is something that I would really encourage people to do more often, rather than just like sell them and forget about them. If they are like the only helicopters in your deck, or maybe if you only bring like one card with helicopters, you can recycle them for use with all your other transports or all your other infantry. So yeah, certainly something to consider. Just don't rely on them, of course, because if they end up getting shot down, then you won't have anything to get them to the front line. But M1 Abrams making short work of those blueberries, and then the T-62 there in trouble in front of the Abrams, but as you can see, the game has ended very quickly after 15 minutes and 10 seconds, and yeah, I just thought this was a really fun demonstration of not only like a very intense and fast 10v10, but also the use of a War Yes deck, and how the build of the deck required me to play in a certain way. Like I was almost forced to do that early helicopter play, because using those ranges like later on in the game doesn't work so well, because then there's more AA, there's more aircraft, and so your only real good chance to get those ranges into a good position to do a lot of damage is either by landing them right behind the lines and then pushing them forwards, or doing what I did in this game, where you land them right on top of the enemy and hope that they just do work, which they absolutely did. And we ended up with the most kills at 2,460 kills in 15 minutes with 795 losses. Insanely fun game. Really good KD by JP here. Very, very nice. But yeah, the ranges, exceptional. Early on, obviously bumped into units that were subpar, but showed their dominance, that's for sure. The F-16s covered the skies nicely, taking out both those Su-27s, causing that player to quit. The Fireteam ATs afterwards, you can see how much they did. And then the MLRS came through with the hot drop for the mech rifles. Admittedly, the mech rifles didn't do so well, but yeah, really, really interesting set of events that occurred throughout this game that was really, really fun. So yeah, I thought it was one to share, and hopefully you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.